keeping you on the know and on the move.
The past few weeks, the world has been debating a white genocide in South Africa. America opened its doors to quote-unquote white farmers. 49 of them went and landed in America, and the doors are still open to many others. But I think there is a real-time genocide that is happening in South Africa, and the genocide happening in South Africa is against women. There is a real-life genocide happening in South Africa against women.
Absolutely.
Women are dying every hour, every minute at the hands of men in South Africa. Is the world going to open its doors to women who are seeking asylum out of South Africa through the genocide? Well, just this week, a 30-year-old woman, a South African woman by the name of Olerato, was murdered after going on a date. Less than 2 hours after being picked up at her residence for this date, she was found thrown and murdered on the side of the road. I was scrolling once again through my TikTok, and a South African woman puts this post up and says, "These are the things that women should avoid doing to not get sexually assaulted or murdered in my country," that's South Africa. And these are some of the things that we as women should avoid doing to not get murdered or raped. Exercising, taking an Uber, going to meet up with friends, sending or picking up a package at your local post office, going on a date, falling in love, going to the police station, being at home, going to the hospital, going to church, going to school. And you know why this is? There are so many reports of South African women who've been murdered or raped at each and every one of these places.
Yeah, that's so sad just to think about that. And it's worrying, right? And we always have this conversation as if like we're trying to give awareness on the problem of GBV, but it's clear that we know that GBV is happening. It's just that we're not dealing with it as well as we should. And I think that's where the problem is. And just to hear the story of this lady is another sad theme because, we've got sisters and family members who are the age and even younger than this girl. In fact, there's other stories of older women who are also being killed and raped in this country.
So we're having a conversation about the vital safety tips to consider when transitioning from online dating to meeting in person. And I do want to put out there that I'm very indifferent about a conversation like this because sometimes it feels like these conversations are taking the GBV conversation and they're putting the responsibility on women to not find themselves in these positions when the responsibility to not kill and to not rape should be on men, not to murder and not to rape women.
I agree completely.
But nonetheless, we have to have these conversations. Safety is important. And even though 30-year-old Olerato did all the safety tips that she could find to try and not be in the situation, she was nonetheless murdered this week. But we do have Ernest Toho on the line, dating coach and founder of Justified Connect Singles, because it is still important to speak about safety and to find ways, any way possible, to try and protect yourself, even though unfortunately it is not a guarantee in South Africa or anywhere in the world, if you are a woman, that you will be safe. Ernest, thank you so much for your time. I'm saying this because it's important to not try and water down the circumstances that we find ourselves in when it comes to gender-based violence, rape and murder that we're seeing all across the African continent, but of course in the capital of gender-based violence here in South Africa.
Yeah, good morning, guys. It's Benjamin and Loretta, right?
And Palesa.
And Palesa, sorry. Benjamin and Palesa Tao. I won't forget that. Good morning, guys. It's Ernest Toho here. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being on your show once again. Let me first off start by just sending my condolences, to the family of Olerato and her friends, South Africa in general, women as well, for what we see that has happened. It's uncalled for, despicable and regrettable. And then also hello to your viewers and listeners.
Thank you so much for that, Ernest. Well, let's speak about the dating realm, right? Of course, moving outside of the story of Olerato herself, online dating is one of the most popular forms of dating in the modern age. It's an easy way to connect with people, to find people online. And the truth is, a lot of people, if not everyone wants love. And so online dating is a great way to do that and to connect with people from many different spaces. But of course, a relationship, for a real relationship to happen, it has to move out from the online space and get into, the meeting in person space where you actually get to know someone. So we need to take a very quick break so we can get into the conversation and speak about some of these safety tips. And not all safety tips have to do obviously with the rape or murder, but just how to protect yourself in a space where you are meeting with complete strangers that you've met online. We know that the online space can be tricky and can be dangerous for a lot of people. So let's go to that break, Ernest. It's going to be really quick, and then we'll come back to you to unpack these safety tips. It's almost 20 minutes past 10 Central Africa time. What are some of the tips that you implement in your life when you are online dating? Let us know. We are live on Facebook and on Instagram as well as on YouTube.
We are up. We are ready. We are on the move with Palesa and Benjamin Moshatama on Channel Africa.
21 minutes past 10 o'clock Central African time. Palesa was right. It just shouldn't be the responsibility of women to take on these kind of actions so they can protect themselves. It's up to us as men as well to make sure that not that women are protected. We don't need to protect women if there are no wolves out there, right? But just to leave women alone. Can we just leave them alone and just let them live and be alive and live in a world where they feel valued and protected, not by us men, but just by being in a safe environment? Because sometimes we feel we need to protect them, but we don't need to in a society where there is no killings and murders and rapes. So we need to just be responsible and men and own up to these serious crimes against women. But unfortunately, we have to speak about the safety tips, especially from transitioning from not just as women but as men. So we neutralize the conversation in terms of moving from that digital space to in-person meetings. Ernest Toho is a dating coach and founder of Justified Connect Singles World. It's great to have you back on the show, Ernest. Let's talk a little bit about it, because the thing about online dating, it's kind of has a pure intention, right? Even if it's the intention is just about I need to meet someone. Initially, you think you're going to have a great experience there, and you probably are very positive about what you think is going to happen online.
Yes, thank you very much, Benjamin. You actually hit the nail on the head. First off, it is sad that we have to now put, women at the center of this, making them responsible for their own safety. That's not what it should be. And men need to, take responsibility as well and do the needful, quite unfortunately. However, there's so much going on at the moment. As much as South Africa is emotional about the passing of Olerato, which we should be, there's a bigger conversation. I know this particular session of this show is restricted, so to say, to online dating and the transition to offline, as the case may be. But there's a bigger conversation, because it's not really solely about online dating. There's traditional dating, which also, we find these crimes happening. And then we have these crimes happening also beyond dating, just kidnapping and murder and all that. So it begs for a bigger conversation in the society, and that's where government comes in. There's no better time at the moment for government and all these political parties to enact laws that protect women. Having said all of that, I was having a conversation once I got this invite yesterday with a friend, and one key question came up. And the question was, Ernest, what are you going to say that hasn't been said? What is new? Because we keep listing out all these safety tips, do a background check, do a video call, go in your own vehicle, meet at a public place, and all those. About 10, 12, there can even be 20 of them. But one message came to me, which is, And also, it's tempting to put all the burden on women and say, no, you have to do 1, 2, 3. You shouldn't be there. Why were you there? Why didn't you go in your own car? But it makes it very tricky. But one new point I'll share is that, or two. One, especially for women, because now the spotlight's on women. Go in your own transport. I mentioned that some time ago about one of the tips. Go in your own transport. Be responsible for your transportation, and then also while you're at that, make sure you're comfortable. Feel safe. Not just feeling safe. Be in control of your safety. The moment you lose control, it puts you in harm's way. And these are things we need to look at. So there's the online transition to offline. There's traditional. Then there's the bigger society. There's government. All the parties need to come together. Because saying that men should take responsibility, don't hurt people, don't kidnap, don't kill them, is like saying don't commit fraud. While the banks and all these financial institutions will put measures in place to secure their customers, finances and money and all that, the government clamps down on fraudsters and put all the safety nets to catch these people together. So there's a very, very high requirement and need for government to step into this matter and establish new, fresh laws that have zero tolerance to GBV, zero tolerance to oppression, kidnapping, and all these things, because it's a mess.
Yeah,
it's a mess.
It's very messy, right? And I actually think that advice is very important, right? Use your own transportation, right? But it's so easy to say that, right? Because I can just hear a young girl listening to us right now and say, actually, I want to go to this date, but this guy needs to Uber me there. I don't have the money. No, I'm being practical. Literally, I'm being kind of what actually happens, like I'm just being like, I want to meet this guy. Dude, Uber me, wherever we meet, it's fine. You make the choice. I just want to meet you, such a nice guy. And at times, those are the situations where people are just charmed by this other person and they would do whatever it takes just to experience time with someone else. And, those things do happen where people don't have the resources to just be in their own car. There's young girls that are dating in their 20s that need a lift to go to a date.
And we also can't say that dating itself is only for those who can afford a car or afford an Uber.
Yeah.
Love is not just for those who have the money to receive love.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Benjamin, you're a dangerous man. The way you put all this together. Out there.
Yeah, because we've been online dating. Our partners, we found them on Tinder, man. So we know how these things work.
I'm laughing the most. The friend of mine I was having a chat with last night to say, look, here's what's going on. And then we're having this prep. And she was like, Ernest, I know you. Don't now go, put pressure and talk about people wanting stuff like we say in South Africa, we like things, which is what you're alluding to. We like things. And there's no harm or crime in it. I mean, in a more, safe environment and decent environment, it's okay. Pursue love and whatever benefits come from it, go for it. But having said what you said, it is true, And another point, someone I've read comments on social media saying, no, we're not dating anymore. No more dating. We're not going to first meet. Second meet is done. We're good. There's a need. No one should be alone. There's a need to find love. There's a need to pursue romance and marriage and kids and family and all that. Mm-hmm. But having said that, it's like driving a car. You can't say, no, we're not going to drive cars anymore because there are accidents out there. People die. But of course, it begs for you to put on your seat belt, do all the needful at the most that you can. You're only human. Mm. But also, sorry, before I let it go. It's important, the point I mentioned earlier, because I'm trying to drive your listeners and the general public to a certain particular point in this interview. Not losing control of your control for your safety. What do I mean? The moment you shift from the more self-reliant or self-protective angle to liking things and, I need to jump into his car. I need to go and have this power lunch in Rosebank. I need. You're gradually watering down your control of safety. And this is where we have a big challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I think we are actually touching this conversation in the way that it should be. I like the tone of this conversation. I'll tell you why, Ernest. It's because we are not telling people 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You do this and then you won't get harmed. Because I think that's where sometimes the problems is. It's like if I send a message to my friends and I tell them I'm in this car, and if I send them a link to this Uber driver, nothing will happen to me. But we know that those things are not always things that actually are helpful. I'm going to keep you there on the line, and then we'll see if we can wrap it up in a way that is, going to come with a conclusion. Because I think we're still very kind of vague right now in coming up with solutions. But I think the vagueness is important because the dangers out there are as vague as this conversation is, because you never know when and how this is going to happen when something bad happens to you. Stay there on the line, Ernest. We'll wrap things up after our business and sports news. But right now, let's go to our sports, and then we'll come back to this very difficult conversation on how to actually meet someone offline when you've established a connection online. It's a difficult one because we've come up with so many things, as Ernest has said, but they didn't really work because these guys who know how to do this are actually intelligent people, and they are monsters. And in the way that they do this, they're aware of all these tips that we're always giving people. So we'll continue the conversation after our sports and business. For now, let's find out what's happening in the sports.
This is Channel Africa. Benjamin Moshatama and Palesa Tawo on the move.
All right, we still have Ernest Toho on the line, dating coach and founder of Justified Connect Singles. And we're supposed to be having a conversation about the vital safety tips to consider when transitioning from digital dating to meeting in person. But I love the direction that our conversation has taken, because there is no watered down version of safety tips or things that women can do to keep safe when dating, because the experience of the woman, especially here in South Africa, is that danger can be anywhere, no matter how safe you try to be. And in fact, speaking about the case study of Olerato, a 30-year-old woman that has been murdered this very week here in South Africa after going on a date, she followed the protocol of what safety tips should be.
She did everything right.
And sending your location ends up just being a location of where your body can be found instead of you actually being safe. So I'm glad that even in the conversation that we've been having with Ernest, we are keeping in consideration that there isn't much that a woman can do to keep safe. If we say, instead of being picked up by a man, rather take an Uber, but the Uber driver may rape or murder you on your way to your date. So there aren't any ways to be safe, but it's a conversation that we need to put in perspective, because we cannot say women should not live life, or women should not want love or seek a normal and ordinary experiences simply because we live in an unsafe environment.
That's true. So I love that fact that, Ernest took it there, because it helps us just seeing how alert we should be in our environments. Ernest, it's a difficult one because it's not a typical these are the lists, because we can give people the lists, but sometimes those lists are not good enough. What's your take about where this conversation is now? Because I don't even know what question to ask you, because I think I just want to hear your opinion about where we are now in this conversation.
Thank you very much, Palesa, and thank you very much, Benjamin, as well. I'm going to do a little rundown now just to be able to give benefits to your viewers and listeners. There's a reason why when a police stops a driver under whatever circumstance, first thing they ask you, where's your license? Mm-hmm. Now, without the license, it really doesn't matter how much seatbelt you put on and how much safety tips you took care of as a driver. You need to know how to drive. Now, when it comes to dating, we're not expecting anyone to receive any certificate to say, okay, now go ahead and date. But then people need to know how to date and how to go about the whole business of dating. This is why, to help, honestly speaking, to your viewers and the larger society at large, I've organized my masterclass, dating masterclass. It's called 6 Steps Dating Life Reset Masterclass. You can get on my website, ernesto.com. Now, the reason why I mentioned this is in the classes that I've had, it's amazing how shallow-minded people are when it comes to dating.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to leave your viewers and the general public with this point. Now, there's a way to date and a way not to date. One of the major nuggets I'll drop here. I always do. I don't know if I've done this in the other shows, but I call it the Limpopo analogy. If you're traveling to Limpopo from Johannesburg, you're leaving for Limpopo, you're taking off from Johannesburg. If you call a friend or family and say, look, I had an accident or a flat tire at Bela Bela or Mokopani, it makes sense. But if you leave Johannesburg going to Limpopo and you call to say you had a flat tire or an accident in Bloemfontein, it's crazy. How did you end up in Bloemfontein? So point being, individuals out there, single people who are going to dating, whether it's dating app or traditional dating, focus on your vision. In the first place, you now need to know your vision. What's your objective? What are you trying to do? Why are you dating? Focus on that, which means the person that you're talking to, once they veer off that track, which means they're not heading to Limpopo, they're heading to Cape Town, we're done. It doesn't matter how good you are, how tall you are, how handsome you are, we're not going the same direction. This is a very good step on how to cut down on the noise and filter out, the time wasters and all that. It's very important.
Yeah.
And
so, I like that advice, because at times we are actually veered away from our true intention on why we are on a dating site. At times then it becomes about the glitz and glamour. Hey, let's go for a date. I know this wonderful restaurant. Hey, I can buy you this and that. But you're not there for that. I know some people are, of course, some people are there for going to restaurants and getting lovely meals and one dates. But, the thing is, that can actually cause you harm if you are there for these frivolous reasons, because that's how people get drawn to the wrong characters, isn't it, Ernest?
Absolutely. Benjamin, you hit the nail on the head right there. I'm happy all this is coming from you, so I'm not going to be held responsible. Honestly speaking, because, it must be said, first of all, guys out there, single people, this society at the moment, until it changes, is very, very cruel. It's very dangerous. So be very careful. But you can only do so much, Pray about going out, coming in, your ancestors, whatever you believe in. But you see, one very important point, like you said, I think it's high time, which is what you're saying, Benjamin, that young men, young women, it doesn't matter, even 65-year-olds are dating, but anyone who's in the dating space, stick to your core, objective for dating. And more than anything, I think it's high time, women particularly, scale down, on the shiny objects, the low-hanging fruits. It's amazing. People just want to. Some people are not even on dating site, not even with any intention to date. They just want to line up men throughout the week, to go out to Rosebank, Santon, have this super long, take pictures for Instagram and all that. We need to begin to cut down on that. On a first date, please make it simple. Keep it short. Let it be a meet and greet. You're just there to confirm whatever you've heard on the internet. Before you meet a person, do a video call. Be sure that the person matches, and then have a conversation about.
No sleepovers on the first night.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Benjamin. I tell you, you're dangerous. I don't know. Honestly speaking, to be honest, you're right on the money, Benjamin. The sleepovers on the same night, it happens and you can get away with it. But for the bigger society, cut down on things like that. Go with your own transport. Cut down on the spending. If possible, if it goes beyond coffee and croissant and all that, if there's a chance you came in from work or wherever, you're very hungry, pay for your own food. Little things like this and nuances helps us to keep, things in check. But most importantly, people need to learn how to date. I'm telling you, even something as simple as you on your own at home, establish, identifying your ideal partner. People are not doing that. And you get out there and everything that looks like my bishop will say, if you don't know where you're going, everywhere will look like it. Yeah. You need to know where you're going. Then it doesn't matter how shiny the object is on the other side. Say, thank you very much, but I pass.
Yeah.
And this across board, even if you're going for what you call a hookup, or you're a professional escort. Keep it professional. Stick to what you're there to do.
Okay, Ernest, we have to leave it there. We've run out of time. Ernest, where can people find you and find out more about some of the services you provide?
Thank you very much, Benjamin. It's Ernest Toho again. You can get me on ernesttoho.com. Please go to my website, sign up. It's free, absolutely free. I'm not charging anything at this moment. Sign up for my 6 steps dating life reset masterclass, and I'll teach you how to date, teach you how to go about, even identifying your ideal partner, your deal breakers and personal preferences. My email address is ernest@ernesttoho.com. You get me across all social media platforms at Ernest Toho. But go to my website, ernesttoho.com, and then we can have a conversation. Thank you so much, guys.
Hey, Ernest, I think you're going to be an on-the-move regular, so we always love having conversations with you. Thank you for joining us. That is Ernest Toho, a dating coach and founder of Justified Connect Singles World. We'll speak about this because I can see Bali has a few thoughts about those few final statements. Her face is always speaking. So I want to hear what she thinks about those final assertions that we just had with Ernest Toho on this conversation of digital space to in-person meetings. Let's take a break. We'll be back.